Hey, Flickin' Fanatics! Welcome back to another video here on the channel. This time we are doing our review of The Last of Us, Episode 4. Please hold my hand. Buck, please hold my hand. Please, do it. I'm joined by Brandon Buckingham, my buddy here, my partner in crime for the evening. And this was a fun episode, but it wasn't quite as heart-wrenching as previous episodes. How did you feel? We'll quick non-spoiler thoughts. How did you feel about the episode overall?
I enjoyed it. I like that we got introduced to some new characters. Really enjoyed that. I love to see the chemistry between Joel and Ellie starting to grow. You can definitely see that he's starting to open up and not be so closed off.
Right.
I really enjoyed that. So I think this is the start of something really great.
I agree. You start to see little bits and pieces of him warming up, just slightly warming up, realizing she is more than just a cargo. I can't wait to get in it. We're going full spoilers right now, right here, right after the jump. We'll see you there. All right, we warned you. We're going full spoilers. You heard our non-spoiler thoughts. If you haven't seen the episode, go watch the episode. But episode 4 was fun.
What are you doing here and you haven't watched the episode? Come on.
Why are you on the internet? No,
I mean, we appreciate it very much that you wanted to watch this video. We really do. But
like the video, comment, and come back later to watch it. But either way, so we started off with them on the road, and we get bits and pieces straight from out of the game, which is perfect. I loved it. They get their gas and they do a little explainer, which they do bits and pieces here and there. You know, Bill gives them like the siphoning hose and says, "You'd be surprised how many cars still have that gas in them." So you get Joel basically switching out the gas, because what he said, he goes, it basically turns to water over time, so you have to kind of like, you know, circulate it out. And then you get my favorite part, like you get the bit with Ellie and the nudie mag in the game, which is really what solidified Bill as being a gay character in the game, is finding Frank, his partner. And then Ellie swiped a bunch of gay nudie mags from his like compound in the game, and she did apparently as they were rummaging through their house before they left. She found some nudie mags. She's like, "Why are these pages all stuck together?" I thought that was a great. I
love
bit.
How they left that in too. Like,
yeah,
like that part, you'd be like, "What?" But I like how they left it in.
Well, it's funny, and then she, you know, Joel's like, you get this awkward dad moment. Like, I don't know how to explain this. What's the right thing? She's like, "I'm fucking with you." Toss it out the window, straight out of the game. It was perfect. It was great.
It really is.
They head into Kansas City, which is a stand-in for Pittsburgh. I think we discussed this in a previous thing, and in the game they're more. These people that we've met, Kathleen, who was, you know, interrogating her former doctor, apparently, on the whereabouts of Henry, some mysterious Henry character. In the game, they're very nameless, faceless, just bad guys. They're just like ravagers. They just steal people. They funnel them into like basically an ambush to essentially steal their resources and kill people, to be honest. But in the show, we put a name to it, right? We get backstory. They're making these real people. They're fleshing out these side characters, which is beautifully what
you can
every
do
episode
in a TV. Yeah, like you can do that in a TV show. Something in a game you can't really do if it's not one of the main or supporting characters.
Right.
They're just why? But
they make you empathetic to other people's causes, right? So, excuse me. We get Kathleen, who apparently, from what we learn, her brother was killed by Fedra.
Yes, I believe that's what it.
Right. So
that sounds right.
So she's interrogating this doctor who she thinks gave them up, and he says no, over and over again. She's like, "All right, I believe you, but Henry gave them up. Then Henry gave up my brother, and my brother's dead now, and I want revenge." So she's trying to hunt down Henry. They find Henry's and his brother, his little brother, Henry and Sam. They find their hideout, like in a little attic space somewhere where Sam has been doing all these superhero drawings, but they're out of food, right? So we meet, I need to look up his name. The actor who played Tommy in the game, Jason Pierce? Tommy in the Last of Us game. What did you think about them? Like because you've just gotten to this part of the game, right? As you're doing your playthrough.
Yes, this is basically where I am in the game, but it's just a little bit different.
Jeffrey Pierce, so his name. So Jeffrey Pierce played Tommy, and this was the military-looking dude, big old beard. He had the weapon. He was rolling around with Kathleen, and they find a big old sinkhole in the ground underneath their building, and it's breathing basically. It's surging, and they just choose to ignore it. They're like, nah, we got to find these two random people and their mercenary friends, Joel and Ellie, mercenary friends. We're just going to ignore this hole in the ground.
I was like,
there's it's like there's graboids underneath there. Tremors reference. There's graboids underneath there, and they're going to break out, and they're just ignoring it. Why would you do that?
Yeah, so Jeffrey Pierce's character's name is Perry.
Perry, okay. Mm-hmm.
Which it's a new character. Why not just use his name, Perry?
Sure.
So it's kind of similar there. I personally think what's underneath that ground are some infected, whether that's runners, clickers, bloaters. I think you said it on our reaction. Wait, I don't. What'd you say? You said, darn, I lost my train of thought.
The bloaters, the runners, the clickers. So I mean,
no. You said like they were burrowing underground, which was something new, something that does not happen in the game.
Well, they could be, and that's something they've done really well, especially which we find out in the second episode when Tess does an explanation of the tendrils and how there's this interconnected network of the infected instead of the spores being in the air, right? So I wonder how many of those vines and how widespread they are, because Kathleen says, seal off the building, we'll deal with this later, right? So she knows that this building is about to get run over with infected, right? They're about to emerge from the ground, maybe, and we see in the teaser, go watch the teaser video if you can. We did a full reaction there of the teaser video. Make sure to like that video as well. We see a bloater. We see a bloater finally, which we had met a little earlier. Yeah.
Very briefly.
Very brief. I mean, we only see a little bit of
3 seconds. If you look away or you blink, you will miss it.
But we do see it. We know it's coming. Yeah. So I wonder how far along in the process bloaters become bloaters, because you go through the stages of the infection and then eventually you become this huge ginormous. They're called bloaters for a reason. They're big boys and they explode spores all over the place. So I wonder if that is like gestating underground, like that's what the breathing was essentially. It's like the tendrils creating, and like there's probably like it's like a cocoon, it's like a transformation type of process. That'll be interesting to see what comes out of that, and how. I mean, they're going to quarantine off the building, right? So I have a feeling that Sam, and as we see at the end of the episode, but with Henry, Sam, Joel, and Ellie, they're going to somehow be forced to travel through that building. I think that's what's going to come. They're going to be forced into the corridors of this infection, spread that's going on, and they're going to have to go through there basically. So we move on. We get Joel and Ellie traveling through town. They're trying to make their way around town. They get stuck. They get funneled into this ambush and gunfire about. And we finally see Joel. He takes down a few bad guys, and then he is about to get taken down. And we see Ellie grab the gun that we saw her pick up in the last episode, and she shoots a guy in the back. Brian. She shoots Brian in the back. We did find out his name, and he immediately goes into plead for my life mode. He's just straight in survival, and he even says, he goes, I can't feel my legs. So Ellie obviously like shot this dude in his spine, and he's like begging for his mom, and I thought she was gonna shoot him straight in the head.
Do we think that's Kathleen? Do we think his mom's Kathleen?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. No. I don't think so. I don't think it's
just the look on her face when they bring him back was like.
I don't. It wasn't. she was mad, but I don't think she was upset. Like that's my baby type of mad.
Yeah, like I think she would have maybe broken down a little bit more, but that was the first thing that crossed my mind. Because he's talking, oh, my mom's real close, and just a few minutes later, then we see Kathleen. I put that together, but now that I think about it more, like I feel like she would have been more distraught and broken if that was her son.
I think so too. I think she would have had a slightly more agitated response, but I imagine that Kathleen seems like she's in charge, so she probably knows all these people, right? Every person she loses is a personal relationship, so she's very upset. She already lost her brother. I don't think she's gonna lose a son. Just I don't know. That's just how I felt about it. What happened next? Where do we go next? We see.
Joel takes the gun back. And then they start trying to find someplace safe to hunker down.
Right.
And I don't know, some sort of shop, some sort of store. They're in there. Joel basically says, once we stop hearing buses, and then Ellie looks through the little hole.
Yeah.
And she's like, do you see that big tall building about 4 blocks away?
That's
he's like, yeah.
They make their way to that building eventually, but we get a really great scene with Joel basically teaching her how to hold a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
great.
There's nice emotional beats there, and they finally have a good conversation where they share a little bit of backstory, essentially, and they bond over this newly shared experience of Joel almost dying and Ellie having to save his life. Which is the first time of many, if you're a game player, because she is a very good helper. She's off anytime Joel gets a guy wrapped around the back of his neck, Ellie's always right behind, just jumping, like stabbing some dude in the neck with her switchblade, which is always really fun.
It was very interesting to see that Joel didn't get like super mad that she had a gun, because I think he thought, I'm alive because she grabbed a gun. If she did not have that gun, I mean, is it possible she would have found something else?
Maybe.
Because Brian's back was to Ellie, and then Joel was on the ground, so she could have. Maybe there was something she could have picked up and thrown.
Yeah, she could have hit him with something.
Yeah, but I think the gun. Yeah, the gun thing, and then we find out this is not the first time she's killed someone.
Right. So we get more allusions to what we will find out later, I think, is Riley. I would imagine they're going to tie these all stories together with essentially the first time she was infected, or the only. I mean, the first. Yeah.
I'm curious if that will be a full episode flashback, or will it be something they drop in here and there?
Yeah, they're doing a great job at varying up the story beats, just enough to keep the gamers on their toes. And that specific story is a DLC in the game that happens concurrent with a portion of the game where you're jumping from this point of view in current time, and like Ellie's like doing this and Joel's doing this, and then you're like, boom, all right, jump over, flashback to this whole section of the game with Riley, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the events of like, okay, we have to go get this thing, okay, we used to have to go get this thing, and so like you're almost walking the same path in the past, but you're playing as Ellie and with her friend Riley. So but it's a very specific point at the game, like storyline wise, it's towards the end, so I think that'll be quite a ways down the road.
Yeah, it could be one of those things. Like you said, like the episode kind of starts present day, and then we kind of maybe 20-30 minutes of the episode is the flashback. Probably, like you said, because it's near the end, maybe 7, 8, 9. Like definitely one of those episodes, because it's 9 episodes.
It's 9 episodes. 9 episodes is going to be the finale. I know exactly what's going to happen in that episode. So this is more like an episode 7 or 8. Probably, most likely in episode 8.
Dude, episode 9 is gonna destroy people.
It's gonna, yes, it's gonna be very, very difficult episode for a lot of people to watch. It'll be interesting. Anyway, back in track. So we get them. They move around. Okay, so they had this nice scene that they're finally starting to bond. Right, they're finally starting to become not father and daughter, but more than just protector and cargo, right? He's more than a delivery man at this point. It's starting to become.
I mean, you have to. Yeah. Like, they're gonna be together for a very long trip.
They have to build this relationship, and they're doing a good job at slowing it down. They're building it over time instead of just like rushing into it. So they start to climb. they go back. It's almost like a callback to I think the first or second episode when they're climbing all those stairs. They get into this big old tall high-rise building. There's 46 floors, and they start to climb. And they just you get a callback to when they in the very first episode when Tess is climbing. She goes 10 flights, not with our knees. And they start climbing this, and they get up to like the 35th floor or something, and Joel's like, nope, I'm done. I can't get any further.
Nope, no more.
Ellie's like, come on, lazy ass. Get your
I think,
ass
yeah, no. They get to like, I think the 33rd floor.
Yeah.
And he just, like, they walk into a room that's kind of off the stairs, and he just leans up against the wall, and he's just laying down. He's like, give me a couple minutes. Give me a couple minutes.
Yeah.
And she's like, come on, get up, lazy ass. He's like, lazy ass. I'm like 56 years old.
Time for a rest. Let's rest for the
little
night.
Shit. I love how he's like, I'm 56 years old, you little shit.
Perfect. The perfect amount of sass between the two, and the essentially the ball busting that happens between the two. It's fun. It's great. So Joel does a smart thing too, because they're gonna hunker down for the night. They're making beds, and Joel is like riddling the ground with glass so that you will hear the if someone's trying to break in, and if they get found out.
Ellie will hear it.
Right.
Joel
yeah, they touch on that, which is interesting. And you mentioned it right before during the watch along. You mentioned Joel's not listening. He's not hearing every time she calls his name, like 2, 3, 4 times.
Yeah. Like it was like in the first 10-15 minutes, they kind of, Joel decides that they need to stop for the night. So they go off the road. They find a little hidden forest area. And they go to lay down, she's like, Joel, Joel, and then she shouts Joel, and it's like, can I ask you a serious question? And then she takes one of the puns from the pun book, and then same thing happens near the end. She kind of does the same thing, like Joel, and then she shouts on the third one. Yeah, and I'm like, that's not a coincidence. That's because I believe when I watched like the video or like some other videos about The Last of Us, they do say Joel does suffer from a hearing issue.
Oh, okay.
If I remember right. So that's what kind of triggered it. I'm like, oh, they're starting to introduce that here and kind of show it.
Well, that's something that Craig Mazon said in the very first podcast episode after the episode aired, was that injuries happen, and you don't just heal from them, right? Like you would in a video game where you use a med kit, or you just, time passes and boom, you're healed from your injuries. No, Joel, he still has that issue with his hand, right? He has obviously hearing loss. He's an old man. He can't climb 46 flights of stairs in one go around. So it's the physical limitations play a part in the show. And so they do a good job at bringing that into real, like what would be a real world scenario essentially. So he hunkers down, but it doesn't matter because all of the bits and pieces that he threw on the ground to wake him up, they wake up to guns in their face. And this is how the episode ends, is we finally meet Henry and his little brother Sam, and they have taken Ellie hostage. They call for Joel. He wakes up and he has a gun right in his face, and Sam just goes, don't make a word. Don't say a word. You haven't met Henry and Sam in the game yet, have you?
No.
So you don't know.
So far, no. But I feel like I'm very, like, it's like right there. I just have to. There's a little section where I'm in a building and there's a bunch of guys and I don't have the most ammo. So it's been a struggle. And like, I got stuck on it for like 30 minutes yesterday. I was like, all right, let me wrap up this episode of streaming. So it's hopefully I can get back to it.
I'm curious if they're going to diverge from the game at all, similar to what they did with Bill and Frank. But I mean, essentially, like you find out as you're going through the entire game and as we go through the show that the infected are not the only, antagonists of your story, right? There's a lot of gray area. There is Joel and Ellie are our main characters. But we have Ravagers and Rapists. We have Infected. We have Fedra in the game and a little bit in the show. And then we also have, our own characters are very gray. They're not black and white. So you have a lot of bad guys to deal with in the world.
And like you said during our watch along, Joel's done some shit. So yeah, absolutely. Joel is not your white knight protagonist.
No,
like he is definitely an anti-hero for sure.
He is absolutely. If you weren't playing and watching the show from his perspective, like he would be. I mean, I hate to, like, just as bad as everyone else, right? He's done a lot of things. If they did a prequel to Joel's life in the 20 years after, you know, his daughter passed away, I guarantee you he would be the bad guy. He would be on the other side of the fence type of thing. But you know what? People grow and change, right? And that's why he becomes our main character of the story. And so it's exciting to see where they'll go with it. And I'm always excited to see how they will change the show from the game too, to just continue to keep it fresh. They did a really good job at this one of fleshing out those other characters, giving a face and name to those other just, you know, bad guys that you would just be fighting along the way. And I'm excited to see it. What'd you think?
I am too.
Overall, wrap it up.
I love this episode. I mean, so far I've loved every episode.
Yeah.
I did like how this was more of a come down from last week's episode where everyone was super emotional. So it was nice to kind of just have one that wasn't going to completely break us, because we're going to get plenty of those down the line with this story. So it was nice to have an episode that wasn't so emotional. There was a lot of high intensity though. Like the tension in this episode was like you had, because once they crashed and everything, they still had, like, their goal is to get on the other side of the city and continue their journey west. So
absolutely.
I'm interested to see how long they will be delayed.
How long? I'm guessing it'll last one more episode, maybe two. The way they'll run them through the scenario that they're currently stuck in, right? And especially dealing with all the infected they're about to have to deal with. But exactly what you said. So the last episode and the one before, very just high on emotion, just huge like emotional beats. Not a ton of action, right? We didn't have to deal with a ton of boom, bang, pow explosions, which you do have to deal. That's a lot of the game.
I feel like that's next week for sure. I feel that was on the trailer. I really feel that's next week.
Well, that was a lot of what this episode was, right? Dealing with the car crash and then, you know, the shootout that was happening, and exactly going into next episode, it was just all gunfire. So when I said this in the last watch along with Allison from last week's, is I still do want to get action, right? I want to get a little more, and they're giving me exactly that, and so I couldn't be more excited. Loved this episode as well. I don't think I can just rank the episodes on a scale. I would rank the series as a whole as being my favorite show on television, at least right now. So I can't wait to get to the next one. Buck, let the people know where to find you on the interwebs. That's how the world works.
Yep. Twitter.com/BrandonBuck88, YouTube.com/SmellMeTheMoney, and Twitch.tv/TheBuckStopsHere_.
You'll find all that in the description with links down below. Make sure to follow this guy on all the platforms. You can find me at Sean Wingblade. You know where to find me. You're here on the channel. You're watching this video. Make sure to like the video and comment. It helps in the algorithm. We're small. We're trying to grow. We're trying to do our thing. And if it's your first time here, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time. Peace.